Well, hello to you again, and welcome to our little corner. This day started with a deluge, a downpour of rain, but it stopped just long enough for us to come to the CVPH Medical Center in the brand new, and I mean brand spanking new emergency department here in Plattsburgh. We've followed its progress since the very beginning. As a matter of fact, even before the ground was broken, we came here and had a couple of tours. Unfortunately, in raising 13 kids, I have been through the old emergency room a few times, but no longer will be able to call this new facility an emergency room. It's the ED, the Emergency Department. My friend Mike Hildebrand, Director of Public Relations here at CVPH, is with me. Michael, how are you?
Hey, I am great. And Gordy, at the beginning of this show, I'm going to correct you already because we have moved beyond Emergency Department. This is the Emergency Care Center.
ECC.
ECC.
All right.
That's what we do in the medical field, you know. We change the terminology and jargon just to keep people off balance. But this is an absolute marvelous facility. We have had people going through, ambulance personnel, someone from Lamoille who does nothing but transport, who claimed to have been in 100 different emergency departments, said, I've never seen anything as nice, as well designed, and as convenient. And that made our staff feel awfully good because they've had a tremendous amount of input into the design, the planning. You know, they've been working for many years in a very old, inconvenient, difficult to work in facility. And they're moving from the slums to uptown in the penthouse. And they're excited.
We hope that most of our viewers will never have the opportunity to see the inside of this ECC under emergency conditions. But the public is being invited in, and business groups and various people are being invited in. Michael is running around like a chicken with his head cut off, showing people this place, but we are certainly proud. And when he says they've turned over a new leaf here at the CVPH Medical Center, he means it. For those people who have had the misfortune of going through the old emergency room or department, you will not believe what this facility is like. I've been through it maybe 3 or 4 times now, and each time I come through, I see an addition, and it's wonderful.
We're going to show your viewers some things, Gordy, that are just hard for me to believe. The medication dispensing system that we're going to show you, the closest thing I can think of is like using an ATM card to get money, only you're getting drugs, medications. We even have one of these in the emergency medical technician office for them to replenish their supplies. The monitoring system is absolutely state-of-the-art. We'll be able to transport a patient on a cardiac monitor anywhere within the facility, and they will continue to be monitored with the telemetry right there at the provider station. It's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, we have taken such a quantum leap forward. And you're right. You hope that people never need this, and certainly this facility has been designed for more of the serious emergency patient. But it's very comforting to know that it's there and it's part of the community, and it's going to be a very deeply appreciated resource, we think.
I think it's appropriate that we began our program outside the new ECC, because the way an ambulance drives up here and brings somebody in is a whole new ball game compared to the old way.
That's absolutely correct. We have here this enclosed area that someone can bring a patient and drop them off in an automobile. And we think this will be very nice, and it's just a short walk in, as we'll show people. But the ambulance personnel will actually be coming in on the west side, and they will be backing into a 2-bay garage, dropping people off and exiting. And trust me when I say we've been orienting the EMT squads, and they just think this is super. This is such a step up for them.
Not only is everything brand new inside, but all these parking lots, the way the visitors come in now, we got a whole new roadway. Tell me what's happened out there.
Well, you know, for years and years, we actually had the traffic moving up close to the medical center. And people were parking on the outside and they were crossing traffic. And we've always been fairly tight for parking also. So we had a situation that wasn't as safe as it could be or should be, and limited parking. We have reconfigured so that we've got much better flow. Everything coming in travels on the outside or the perimeter. And believe it or not, we were able to create more parking, and particularly more parking for emergency patients and their families. So this is a win situation for everyone, and it's a good deal. It's a very good deal.
Sign of the times. The emergency center here at the CVPH Medical Center is brand new as we're taping this on the 13th day of August. Michael, as we said, is planning a large number of tours, including one for the public, which would be tomorrow after we're taping. And hopefully, if all goes well, this facility will be open for use by the public on Monday.
Monday morning at 5 a.m., they shut down the old and they move into the new. And they're looking forward to it, but they kind of hope that the Monday is sort of slow, because I'll tell you,
there's a lot of work going on inside right now, I'll tell you that.
Listen,
we know these doors work, though, by the way.
These doors are superb.
They open and close behind us.
Whether they need to or not, these doors are working. No, that's very true. You know, something with the staff, I mean, I, who don't work in the emergency department, I walk in and I go, man, this is great. Everyone will love it, right? But if you work in the department now, you know, we're displacing everyone. They've worked there for years. They've worked with certain equipment. And they've worked using certain systems. All this changes for them Monday. New facility, all new equipment, and a new way of doing business, and we'll have people talking to you about that. So I'll tell you, it's kind of scary because it's different. It's very different.
Everything, it's a fear of the unknown.
Oh, yes. So as I say, it's easy for me, who doesn't have to do a thing with it, to think this is marvelous. But it's got people, you know, they're thinking about it. They're giving it a lot of thought. But I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be terrific, and if we did a follow-up in 6 months, I'm sure the feeling among not only the people who work here, but the patients who have to use it will be that it is terrific.
Absolutely. We guarantee it.
Oh, there you go. The guarantee.
That's right.
We'll be inside to show you what this new emergency facility is all about in just a minute. Just before we go inside, I wanted to show you what the entranceways will look like when you're driving in. You'll still be able to drive in off Beekman Street, come into the facility, come up through the parking areas, and drive around the perimeter and make a full circle around the parking lots and into the emergency facility here at CVPH Medical Center. As Michael pointed out, the entrance we're standing at would be for the public to come in with emergencies, and you can also come up from the street adjacent to the facility on the west side if you'd like to come in from that area and drive in. And ambulances will use a different kind of bay, far different from what they're used to using in the past. Now we'll head inside. The door conveniently opened and didn't crush Calvin on the inside. I just did a newspaper column this morning to be in the paper in a few weeks about smells and how I love the smell of new things, new cars, new clothes, and new emergency facilities. We're on the inside. We can see workmen and panels still out of the ceiling, but he guaranteed. Well, he guaranteed
in 6 months. In 6 months, I guaranteed people will just love it. Gordy, a couple people here. I'm going to hand you off initially to Faye Martineau, who looks like she's very stressed out and nervous, but she, underneath that, is really extremely calm and confident that everything will be ready for 5 a.m. on the 18th.
Just take a deep breath. 2 aspirin and call me in the morning.
Right.
Just don't call me Monday morning.
Right.
I'm not sure you'll be able to find a telephone. You'll be so frantic here. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yes. As long as I have worked here, which has been 8 years, we've talked about building a new emergency department, and it's finally coming true. And it's a very happy time, but a very sad time, because we're leaving everything that we've known and loved for something entirely different. So we have mixed emotions right now.
Yeah, as we pointed out with Michael outside the building, when you try something as ambitious as this, you know there's going to be there's going to be a little trepidation in the change, but
Right.
hopefully down the road we'll look back and say, I'm so glad we did it.
We're glad already, actually.
Faye, let's get a little bit of your background. What is your title here?
Okay, I'm the Director of Emergency Services and the CVPH Health Center, and what that means is that I am the administrative manager for the emergency department, the fast track area of the emergency department, the EMT of CVPH ambulance service, and the CVPH primary care center. I'm a graduate of Plattsburgh State. I'm a student at Sage College Graduate School in Troy, and I have one class left until I get a master's degree in health services administration. I sort of put that on hold while we've been doing this project and hope that by next spring I'll finish.
I think that's about enough on your plate for one season.
I'm a certified emergency nurse. I've been a manager in the emergency department now for 6 years. And I've been at CVPH for 8 years. Previously, I was the manager of the intensive care unit. Before that, I worked at Placid Memorial Hospital. I was the director of nursing there.
Faye, are you originally from this area?
Yes, I'm from Ausable Forks.
Did you
Lived
have...
there all my life.
Terrific. I
Now
don't know if
live
we've
in,
done a program on Ausable Forks, but
yeah.
I think we ought to now.
I now live on Chattagay Lake with my husband. My kids are all grown up now, and we have what we hope will be our retirement home on the lake up there.
Just don't retire before Monday. I don't think we can stand the
No.
loss.
No, I have to work a few more years.
Did you have any input into this, the planning of this facility?
Actually, the emergency department staff planned this entire facility based on a number of things. One was the feedback that we got from our customers about things that were not efficient or that people were not happy about in our old emergency department. We also had the staff analyze every part of the job they do and determine what could become more efficient based on the design of a department. And we organized teams that actually designed each area of this facility to make it more efficient for patient care and more patient focused. And they really have done a wonderful job, and you'll see that as you go through. They've thought of every last detail, I believe. Also, Linda Sears, our trauma nurse coordinator, who you'll meet a little later, was the project coordinator, and she has done an exceptional job in coaching the team that designed this unit.
Amazingly, I think my wife was the one that asked the question when we made a tour here several weeks ago as to how many extra people the new emergency facility would employ, and it'll be so efficient here, hopefully there won't have to be any extra people.
That's right. In the beginning, we'll be bringing in extra people to make sure all the kinks are worked out of the systems that we've created, because many of them are new. And actually, the day that we walk out of the old emergency department, it will be like everyone is going to a new job, because everything here is new and different. The systems, the equipment, and so there will be extra staff the first few weeks. Then we'll analyze what our needs are at that point for additional staffing. Administration here has been very supportive of our needs and has told me to do what I need to do to make sure that this department functions the best it can possibly be. So if we determine that we need additional staffing, I'm sure they'll support that. We have no plans for any right now, however.
You know, if I was just thinking as you were talking, if somebody took a nap like Rip Van Winkle in the 1950s and came back to see if he or she would recognize this facility, there ain't no way.
No. I've been walking back and forth from the old ER to the new ER quite frequently over the past few weeks. And it's like walking from the dark ages into the future. It's brighter, it just has, the whole environment is just so different that there's actually no comparison at all. And I'm sure that it, like you said, would be quite the trip walking into this from the 1950s, because our old department was designed many, many, many years ago.
Give us, just before we go in to look at some of the various corners of this new emergency facility on our program called Our Little Corner, give us an idea what the major concept is here. What's so radical about this emergency facility?
We've designed this department around the patient. The patient is the focus of our attention, and what we've done is design the physical environment to create a more private environment. We've designed it so that the patients feel like they have access to the staff. They're visible. The staff will be visible always to the patient. As we walk through, you'll see that. We've designed it so that there's improved confidentiality, and when we start in the beginning here, you'll see some of the things that we've done to do that. So what is different is that everything that we've done is designed to focus on the patient and their expectations for service. And what we've tried to do is we'll take those extra steps, let the patient go to their bed where they belong, and we'll get all the work done so that they're not going through step by step a process that takes a long time. I would hope by the end of phase 3 of this project that we will be able to significantly decrease the amount of time that the patient needs to spend in the emergency department.
There's enough trauma involved in having to use any emergency facility, so if you can make it better for staff and for the patients, then you've accomplished a great deal.
Right, that's right. And that's why we're here. If we didn't have patients, we wouldn't need to be here.
Now, just before we begin our tour, tell us what's going to happen to that old facility.
This new building is phase 1 of a 3-phase project. Phase 2 will be the creation of a 6-bay fast-track area, which will care for the non-urgent patients that we now see. That's approximately 40% of our population, and I actually have our fast-track nurse here now who would love to talk to you a little bit about phase 2
she looks
of
like
this
a
project.
fast-track nurse, too. Well, introduce us.
Okay, this is Kelly Fernia. She's a registered nurse in the fast-track area of the emergency department. She's one of 2 12-hour shift nurses who you would see 3 out of the 7 days of the week here, working alongside the physician or PA assigned to that area. And I'll let Kelly tell you a little bit about our program and what we've done over the last few years to improve our service and what we plan to do in the future.
Well, let's just move over this way and do just that. Kelly, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
What do you think about this whole thing?
It's wonderful. It's great. We're excited. We, the Fast Track now, we see the non-urgent classification of patients, and we try to get them through quickly, bring them to a room and have their care done as quickly as possible. With the new facility, we'll have 6 beds to operate out of. And now we're using 2 beds, and we've worked real hard over the past year and a half to expedite their care and use an hour time as our goal. Many cases reaching those goals, and that's what we're working hard at.
You know, any emergency facility, it's very hard to predict what a given day is going to be like. It's very hard to predict what any given day is going to be like for any of us.
Right.
Thank goodness we don't have a crystal ball to look into and
That's right.
see that bad things are going to happen. But it's got to be gratifying to you and kind of exciting and frightening all at the same time to
That's
move
right.
into something like this.
That's right. It's a big challenge. We're looking forward to it, though. We've worked hard to make it work, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, as we do with everyone else we interview on this program, we like to get a little background. Tell us about you personally and your background.
I've been a nurse since I graduated high school. I started out as an LPN and went back to school to get my degree. And I moved back here to Plattsburgh in 1987 and have been here ever since.
So you've been a part of this whole change process here for a long time.
That's right.
That's terrific. Well, we're going to hit the skids here, boy. We're going to go and check this place out from one end to the other and show it all to you so you can get your view from the inside of the new ECC at CVPH Medical Center. When this new emergency facility is activated, the patients will be coming in the doors you've just seen, and they'll stand where Calvin is standing now, viewing someone inside here who will invite them through this door. Is that correct, Faye?
That's correct. One of the flaws in our old design is the fact that a patient walks up to our triage desk and the nurse asks how we can help them, and anyone standing behind them can hear why they're here, and it really is a violation of their confidentiality and patient rights. So what we've designed here is the ability to walk in a door and sit behind a glassed-in area and speak with the nurse privately about the reason the patient is here. What we've decided to do at that point is actually get enough information, including a set of vital signs, and we have a vital sign automatic piece of equipment here so that the patient can sit in the chair. We'll take their vital signs, and then we'll decide what kind of room they need to go into. And where before in the process you were required to go to a triage booth, then go to a patient registration person, we've cut those steps out, and we've actually worked with our registration department to register patients at the bedside, and I'll let Lisa talk a little bit about that.
Okay, come on right up here. What's your name again?
Lisa Baker, I'm the supervisor for patient registration.
All right, Lisa, how long have you worked here?
I've worked at CVPH for 7 years in patient registration, and I just recently, a year and a half ago, became a supervisor.
Oh, terrific. Are you from the Plattsburgh area?
I'm from Rouse's Point originally.
Well, we're covering just about every corner of this here county on our program today. Boy, it goes without saying that the equipment in here is state-of-the-art.
Yes, and registration actually is very excited about having the new ER and doing bedside registrations when appropriate for patients to bring the service to the patient.
All right, explain what happens. Now, make-believe Calvin over here with the camera as a patient will come in and sit down, and vitals will be taken, a little bit of history, then what?
And then he's going to be brought directly back to a room. From that point, the registration will get the patient's name off a clipboard. We will go in the back with an actual laptop computer, and we will get all the patient information at that time. And it'll save a little bit of time because the clinical staff is going to be right in the room with us, so questions that we might ask 2 or 3 times from 3 or 4 different people will be answered all in one shot. And it's going to make it user-friendly for the patient. They're going to have more confidentiality. They're going to be in a bed, being taken care of, and we're going to be there helping them, getting the information versus having them sit at a desk when they may be uncomfortable. They're going to be right in a bed, being taken care of, and we'll just get our information, and it's going to seem very seamless to them.
It's amazing to me how much thought must have gone into planning this facility to make it better for everyone. As I mentioned before, it's traumatic when you have an emergency. And when I've been through emergency rooms that in and of themselves were frightening. And this place looks like it's going to do its best to put the person at ease. so that the business of making them better as quickly as possible can be undertaken with dispatch.
Yes, and we always want to put the patient first, so anything that we can do to make them more comfortable is what we're going to do.
And are we going to take a little trip? You're going to show us around here?
Sure.
All right.
Over here is where our actual registration area is going to be. If there was a time where we couldn't actually do a bedside registration, we would have a family member sit with us and do the registration, because there are going to be cases when we actually cannot get into a room. But we are going to try and do the best that we can to get, that taken care of. So they would sit at a desk and we would get them registered. The waiting room is actually right out here. With the new registration, us doing bedsides, we actually are going to be able to be more apt to see patients' family members. We can actually try and help them a little bit better than what we can now in the registration area that we have. We're kind of secluded from the waiting area, where now we can actually see the waiting area. We can go take care of family members if we need to.
I see some furniture for little people out there.
Yeah, they actually made a nice little area for children to sit and probably color and toys, and to kind of keep them more at ease and in their little area.
Yeah, this smells good in here. Yeah, I see you have some wreaths. You have a table set up. That'll be for some of the receptions that'll be in the tours that'll be taking place over the next few days. And it's this whole process has got to be so exciting.
It is very exciting. The registrars are really looking forward to actually doing something a little different, because it's nothing that we've actually really done. There are maybe a couple that have tried doing a bedside registration, but it's nothing that we've actually gotten into, and now we actually have the opportunity to do that.
And how many people will you have working in this area?
There will be just one registrar here and one in the fast-tracked area to take care of those patients, but there are staff from the main patient registration area that we can send up when time warrants for an extra help. And the supervisory staff will be here through the first month of operation to help ease the staff with anything that they have problems with.
Well, we thank you so much for that tremendous explanation. You're all so terrific and knowledgeable about what's going on. We can't wait to continue the tour. The reason we're still here in this area is because Calvin loves buttons. He said, "What are those buttons?" And Faye said, "I can tell you what they are."
Right. Well, let's start on the left here. We have two red lights indicating that the ambulance garage doors, which we'll walk through later on, are either open or closed. When the light is on, the door is open. When the light is off, the door is closed. That way, when an ambulance service radios in that they're arriving with a patient, we'll know what ambulance bay to assign them to. These buttons are the actual open the door buttons for those two bays out in the ambulance garage. The buttons here are for the doors at night. At night, the emergency department is locked down even now, and we have an intercom system where patients arriving can let us know that they're here, and we'd be able to unlock the doors here. It's for the safety of the staff on duty at night. And the red button here signifies that someone has entered the department and is in cardiac arrest. And that goes automatically to our hospital operator, who would actually call a code 99 overhead. And then a response team for code 99 would arrive to assist the emergency department staff, including a physician. And the other button is a code 66 button, which means we need security to come to the emergency department, because we have a problem in making sure that a patient maintains their safety. And it's just a team of people that would arrive to assist us in that.
And we'll move along. And we'll be leaving that portion of the facility and going to the critical care rooms. The first room that we're coming up to is a double bay critical care area. It serves dual purpose in that patients who have significant cardiac events may be cared for in this room, and also patients who arrive with significant multiple trauma may be assigned to this area.
It's been especially designed by the staff to meet all the needs of those critically ill patients. I think that Linda Sears, our trauma nurse coordinator, could probably best explain what all the buttons, whistles, and bells are in this room, and I'll let her talk about even the design on the floor signifies something special.
This whole place is something very special. Linda, get up here. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. We're thrilled about this new facility. I bet you are too.
We can't wait. 3 or 4 days and counting.
Before we go any farther, let's get your background as we have everyone else we've talked to so far today. Where are you from and where have you been to get it where we are today?
I live in Saranac. I'm originally from Michigan, and I'm the trauma coordinator here. I've been here for about 5 years, I guess, since we were designated as an area trauma center.
Why would a young girl want to get into this field?
It's very exciting. It's very stimulating. It's always changing. It offers a lot of opportunities that you don't normally get in other jobs.
But you must have to have a special personality to handle the tremendous stress of this job on a daily basis.
Nursing in general, you have to be able to flex with the times and the changes. That's just the way it is.
You got to have a passion and a need to help other people and to learn. Every day is a learning process here, especially in this new facility.
It's been a real challenge. It's been very, very exciting. We've visited several emergency departments across the state, actually across the country, and we picked what we liked and designed what we thought we needed. And this is it.
So can you imagine what it would have been like if somebody had said, here's your new facility, take it or leave it, without having had the tremendous input all of you people have had in creating something that you knew would be right based on your experience and knowledge? I think that's terrific.
We were very apprehensive going into it, but the management at this facility has said, you know what you need, tell us what you want, and so far they've been excellent. They've allowed us to create this wonderful facility. It's state of the art, and all of the facilities we visited, you just won't see this.
Once again, Plattsburgh and Clinton County lead the way, as we have in so many other means down through the years. Tell us what we're seeing inside here, Linda.
This is a 2-bay trauma cardiac room. It's one of the larger rooms that we have. The floor design, as you see, there's difference in colors. That's what I affectionately call our trauma zone. When you're taking care of a trauma patient, you don't want a lot of ancillary people around. You just want the people that you need at the patient's bedside, and that zone designates the bedside. Nobody else is allowed in that zone. They are excused from the room. We have a triple head wall unit in this room on the far wall that has gases and suction and compressed air for ventilation, baskets, you name it, we can put it on the special utility rail. It's got emergency power and regular outlets just about every 6 inches so that we can plug in or provide gases, vacuum suction anywhere in this room. We're not confined to one general area. You don't have to, some people prefer to work off the right, some people work off the left better. You can do whatever you want on this head rail. It also frees up the head of the bed so you don't have a lot of people. Our present design, everything we need to treat that patient is at the head of the bed. Well, if you've got a patient that's not breathing, you don't want a lot of stuff at the head of the bed. So we tried to clear it and designed it so that our support services are all around us rather than at the head of the bed with a designated zone.
Now, what's above? These Star Wars type things, are they lights or what are they?
Yes, they are. They're brand new, state-of-the-art surgical lights, as you weigh. They have the ability to flex and go anywhere so that you can have a good visual field anywhere in this room.
Obviously well balanced too, so you can turn them and pull them and push them easily.
They are. They
Look
don't
at
float.
Ah.
That was one of the things the staff wanted to make sure we had when we moved in here were new lights, because our lights are extremely outdated.
As are many things in the old emergency facility, and that's why there was such a push to make sure this one was finished and that it was right the first time.
Yes.
Technology sometimes outstrips all of us, and we wake up tomorrow morning and things are outdated, but as you said, everything in this new facility is state-of-the-art, the best we can get today.
Yes. Each room, all of our rooms are equipped with view boxes. We have charting stations for nurses. We have a 10-bed cardiac monitor unit, and that's equipped or designed to go with the patient so that we can unplug this. It's all radio frequency, and if we need to go to CAT scan with a trauma patient, we take the monitor right with us and go. Then it all feeds back to our central station.
When you say central station, this whole facility goes around in a circle, doesn't it?
Yes,
Pretty
it does.
much.
Yes, it's designed in a circle. All the treatment rooms are visible from the nurses' station so that we have a good visual field of everything that's going on, as compared with the old emergency department where you've got cubby holes all over the place.
All right, we're going to continue our tour in just a moment. We haven't moved very far. We're just moving out of one room into another. First of all, tell us what these color codes mean outside here. Everything is color-coded on the wall?
Mm-hmm. This is a system that we actually developed. I've never seen it anywhere else. Whereas we can track the patient and where they are in the system. Each one of the flags, affectionately called flags, is labeled. The first flag is waiting for an MD evaluation, so that when we bring the patient to the room, we would put that flag up. This would all be down. That way the physician knows that he has a patient in the room and it's ready to be seen. When he goes in the room, the physician that is, he puts this flag up so we know where the physician is in the room. We're trying very hard to decrease the noise level in the department. We've gone to great extents to do that. We have a new intercom system. We have a, what they affectionately call my dome, which is the dome of silence, and it's a recessed ceiling to take noise. And we're encouraging people to use these flags so that we don't have to overhead page the whole department. Physician goes in, he writes his orders, he either writes routine or stat orders, puts those flags up. The provider, the nursing provider, the EMT provider then goes in, they know they have orders. Okay? All the orders are back. We're waiting for the results to come back, and when they do come back, we put the flag out, and that says waiting for MD reevaluation. The doctor knows he has to go back in there. All of his results, everything he needs is back on the chart. And then the patient is either discharged, transferred, or admitted.
And those colors can be seen from just about anywhere.
Anywhere. They look like little feathers hanging out from the rooms.
What a great idea. I'd like to know whose precise idea that was. Was that a brainstorming session that developed that idea?
Yes.
What a great idea.
We had several teams throughout the 2 years that we've been working on this that came up with these. And this is actually an idea that comes out of CVPH's Health Center. They use this to identify who's in a room and what process they're in. So we adopted it here. It's a very simplistic, rather inexpensive way to track patients.
And if the power goes off, you can still see those things. They're not electronically operated.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Now before we go into the next room, let's talk about the regional aspect of this facility. Mm-hmm. This certainly is described as a regional medical center, and it covers how big an area?
We cover 3 counties, Essex, Franklin, and Clinton County. We have 5 hospitals that send not their particular people to us, but we evaluate their trauma cases from Ty, Alice Hyde, E-Town, Lake Placid, and Adirondack Medical Center. I take those cases and I send them to the Department of Health, and we collect those statistics so that we know how we're doing on a regional basis as compared to the rest of the state. We've been in this system since 1993.
Terrific. Mm-hmm. All right, let's step inside and you tell us what we have as we move.
This is our what we call bed 3, and this is another critical care room. This room is special in that we have special needs things for pediatric population. We have a pediatric Braslow cart, and how that works is basically we have a chart that we put down on the stretcher. We place the child on this chart, and depending on where he ends up, say head's here, feet are here, if he's in the white zone, all we have to do is go to the white drawer, and everything for that child is in that drawer. That's the right size for the right
Amazing.
child.
All color-coded again.
Everything's color-coded, everything. Something else that's special that I have never seen anywhere else is this closet that we designed. Healthcare is a very expensive industry, as we all know, and a lot of the instruments that we use and trays that we use are extremely expensive, and many hospitals can't afford to duplicate enough to have 3 critical care rooms. So we designed a closet, so to say, that could be accessed from either this room or the previous room that we were just in. It is going to have glass doors on it. They should be here sometime today. And all of the equipment will be accessible from either side. It also helps from a staffing point of view. If you have 1 or 2 nurses taking care of these 3 patients, she or he does not have to run back and forth getting equipment from the other room, which is the case that we have now.
Theoretically, a simple idea, but one that makes a big difference.
A huge difference. Like I said, we've never seen it before, but we really feel that it's going to work. And some of the facilities that have come here and people that have come here with the equipment, a cardiac monitor, the nurse clinician came here, was amazed that we could come up with something like this, and in fact she's taking it back to California for her facility.
I told you, we lead the way. Why would we have this monitor up in the corner?
This is a monitor that's connected to this monitor, and all it does is it gives us a bigger screen to look at when our patient's hooked up to the cardiac monitor system. This radio frequency actually disconnects and can go with the patient as with the rest of the 10 units that we have.
Terrific. We pretty well described this room. We'll be moving along. And we're standing outside the room you just saw from the inside. I'm standing here with Corey Trahan. How are you?
Good, how are you?
That doesn't sound like a North Country name, Crahan. Where are you from, Corey?
I live in Osable Forks.
Well, see, we've so far 2 staff members from Osable Forks. You're born and brought up there?
Yes.
Terrific. How did you happen to come to this facility?
I took my EMT course about 2 years ago, and the jobs opened up when they got the ambulance service, and I applied and got a job.
And here you are. That's that's a short and sweet description of how you got here. What actually is your job, Corey?
We assist the doctors and the nurses. Our primary job is to ride the ambulance. We have a district that we cover, town of Plattsburgh, town of Beekmantown, and town of Schuyler Falls. We do about 1,200 to 1,300 calls a year. So that keeps us pretty busy, but we're in here quite a bit, doing EKGs, drawing blood, putting Foleys in, just assisting wherever needed, paperwork.
You know, that figure about how many calls a year just rolled off his tongue. That astounds me. You have that many calls a year? Mm-hmm. That's truly amazing to have that many ambulance calls. The ambulance, the 911 system has changed a lot of things in this area, and so has the addition of advanced life support in many of the departments, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I think the 911 system's made things, response times faster, and with the advanced life support, you're able to get a higher level of care to the patient, where sometimes you're farther out from the hospital, and you need to get that care to them as soon as possible.
The idea is to save lives, and you're obviously doing it. Now, we're going to walk outside here, and you're going to show us just how different things will be starting Monday than they've been in the past. As it is now, an ambulance has to do what when it comes into the area?
When it backs into the patient or the exit and the entrance to the emergency room, they're out in the inclement weather. and it's quite a walk from the entrance to where the rooms are. Out here, it's much closer to the trauma rooms and all the other rooms. They'll be out of all the inclement weather. They'll be able to house 2 ambulances in the bay at one time. Plus, we also have a lot of other. We have a room specially designed for the EMS services to go in and do their paperwork and to restock and cleaning.
Great, let's take a walk and find out what it's all about, okay?
Okay.
Explain to me what we're going to see.
Okay. Right here to your left is the decontamination room. This is where the squads will be able to clean their backboards, equipment, whether it gets bloody or dirty or whatever it may be. It's also going to serve as a decontamination unit for the hospital, or for the emergency room, excuse me. They'll be able to wash patients off if they come in with radioactivity or whatever on them. They'll be able to, there's a shower and sinks and everything.
And everything's set up just the way you want it.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. Now we're out into the, what do you call this area?
This is the ambulance bay. This is where the ambulances, they'll be backing in over here. They'll drop the patients off. They'll move the ambulance outside for the next ambulance coming in. The old system, we used to have a backup or a drive-through tunnel. The ambulances pull in, drop the patients off, and then drive straight through. There's a lot of liabilities with that issue, being that somebody could get run over as the ambulance is coming through. This way there's more control. They're not going as fast when they come through. They have to slow down to back up. The squads are going to have a place to put their backboards and stuff once the patients are taken off the backboards. They'll bring them out here after they're cleaned. Each squad's going to have their own designated hook for their backboards and supplies. And this is the decontamination unit. This fits on a stretcher, and you put the patient right on the backboard, and you just clean them off there, and then all the hazardous materials goes into the basin there, and then they can dump it accordingly to whatever the disposal.
You have nothing like that now, or is this a completely new concept?
We do have something set up now, but this is a much more, it's more
Got to be more efficient,
more efficient.
more up to date. What else? What are we looking at here on the ground?
I think those are just street lights for
Okay.
out there somewhere. In here,
We'll follow you anywhere, Corey.
okay. This is the area that the EMTs will be able to do their paperwork after the call's been completed. They'll be able to restock their ambulances. As you can see, we have all the supplies that you'd need in the ambulance. Right now, we don't have any. The hospital has no way of communicating with the squads as far as getting them memos and newsletters and stuff. So what we've designed over here is each squad's going to have their own mailbox, so they'll be able to stop in on a regular basis and pick up mail, whether it be for memos or continuing education or whatnot. This this system right here is going to allow squads to stock more efficiently. They're not going to have to constantly hound the nurses to get them supplies that that are normally locked up and only the nurses have a key to. This also allows the patient to be correctly charged. That way they're not overcharged, undercharged. I can give you a brief. I can show you how it works
I'd
if
love
you'd
to.
like. Each EMT from every squad is going to have their own password to get in here, so they'll know who's getting into it and taking what.
Can I ask a question, Corey? Well, but you're saying squads. Now you're saying just the hospital squads, or you're talking the
We're
EMSs
talking
from
about
throughout
the whole
area?
county, Essex County, Clinton County, Franklin County, whoever comes in will have access to
So an
this.
ambulance from Cherubusco is going to fill up their supplies out of here.
To, supply from here.
Okay.
There's going to be 3 levels of access to this. The basic EMTs will have access to your bandage supplies, your airway supplies, collars, solutions, and your miscellaneous supplies. Your intermediate techs, who can start IVs, intubate, defibrillate. They'll have access in this drawer. There's your IV supplies, blood drawing supplies, and then the critical care techs, they'll have access to the medicines, which are right here. Each person's going to have their own sign-on and password to get into the system. So. What they want to do is they'll be able to remove a medicine, and they'll scroll through and find the patient's name. When they're registered in the ER, you can scroll through and we'll just pick a person, and then it comes up with all the supplies that are in here, and you just go through and you pick the supplies you need. You can scroll down through and say you want an atropine. You pick on atropine, and it'll ask you how many you want. You just tell them one, and you tell them you want to remove it now. And the proper door opens. You just take your atropine out, and you're all set to go. Put that back.
Everything is carefully noted. So as you said, the patient will not be overcharged, and there's constant electronic data keeping for everything that happens in this room.
Yes, this will eliminate a lot of hassles for the supply person, because everything's automatically recorded. What's taken out of here, and down in the pharmacy they have a master computer, and they just print out every second day or something like that, and they'll be able to see what's missing, and then they'll give it to the stock people, and they'll come up and restock. So it's going to save a lot of time. They're not going to have to come up and inventory it first and then go get the supplies. They'll be able to just come up and stock it.
You know, something enters my mind. It would be very difficult to begin this process all at one time, for example, on Monday when this facility officially opens, without a lot of thought and practice. Most of the people here had a chance to run through everything.
I think that the ER staff, EMT wise, they are all pretty comfortable with it, and we have been training all the outside squads that have been coming in on how to use it. It is going to take a little while to get used to, but once everybody gets used to it, I think it'll work out very nice.
It's like learning to drive a new car with a different shifting pattern. You just have to do it until it becomes automatic.
Yep.
The more familiar you are with it, I guess, the easier it is to go through the process of getting somebody in here, treated, and back out again.
Mm-hmm. Now that this is here, the squads have access to come in and practice on it and just familiarize themselves with it.
There is nothing like this in the other facility, the old facility here?
No, there isn't. Currently, right now we have a supply closet with just a bunch of stuff in it. There's not everything you need. As I said earlier, you need to go get a nurse and have them unlocked so you can get the medicines. Basically, all we have access to now is the IV supplies and bandages.
Okay, Corey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's where we were, and as Calvin turns around, we'll show you where we're going. Faye.
Yes, I thought I'd bring you next into the provider station, which is directly behind us. It's a 44-foot long station for the nurses and physicians and other staff members to work in. If you notice in the front of this nurses station, the countertop is quite wide, and there is a significant amount of space under the counter. That is because we will have a cart system under the counter, whereby we can bring a specialty cart to the patient's room. In other words, if a patient is an orthopedic patient, instead of waiting for an orthopedic room to become available, all the rooms are created universal, and we can bring the equipment to the patient, the same kind of concept as with the monitoring system. So all care goes to the patient versus having to wait for a specialty room to become open, which hopefully will speed up the care significantly. This station was also designed with a lot of thought about how work should be processed, orders, etc. This area is where our unit clerk, who is actually the center of our communication system, would sit. And you can see all the bells and whistles that we talked about earlier are also on her desk, so that she can actually call any of the codes that we talked about, or open the ambulance doors, or communicate with the hospital operator, or page anyone in the department from this desk.
I've always said communications is the name of the game, but in this department, it's essential.
Right. Exactly. It's a very large department. One of the other things that we're very proud of is that you can stand here in the provider station, and as the staff works, they can actually visualize all the patients in all of the rooms from this work area. Previously, we've had concerns expressed by our patients that we forgot they were there because they can't see us and we can't see them. In this department, the patients will feel like we're closer to them because we'll always be visible to them and they'll always be visible to us. So we're very proud of the fact that we have that kind of design.
It's a win-win situation once again.
Right. I'd like to introduce our medical director, Dr. Alexander Kuehl, who
Doctor.
joined us effective August 1st. And
Terrific.
we're very happy to have him with us to be our leadership as far as the medical care of our emergency department goes.
Doctor, what a time to come on board.
Well, they promised me there wouldn't be any snow this year, so that there was going to be a pleasant year in Plattsburgh.
I want to know who made that promise. Probably Calvin. He makes a lot of those hollow promises. We'll, you know, although we have had some years without snow, this will probably not be one of those. Where do you hail from?
I actually grew up in the North Country in St. Lawrence County, and I've been for the last 15 years in the New York City area.
Where in St. Lawrence County?
In Governor.
Oh, well, there you go. We just got back from a camping trip at Coles Creek along Route 37 just before you get to Waddington. I love St. Lawrence County.
No, my first job was with the Thousand Island Park administration, and I used to go up and take the garbage out of Coles Creek. I remember
Did
doing
you
that.
really? I hope I didn't leave too much up there.
I don't think so.
Okay, so you ended up here.
Oh, I like it very much here.
And do you have a home yet, or are you looking for
Well,
one?
I just rented an apartment over on Ruger Street, right near the university, and I'm just getting moved in. I'm just a little bit sore from all those boxes.
Oh, man, that can do it. You should have called me. I'd have referred you to Calvin. He's got a truck and a few friends and relatives, big, strong farmers up in the northern tier. So now that you're here, what exactly will be your job?
Well, basically, what I'm asked to do is to create a teamwork, a consolidation and cooperation among the staff in the emergency department and the doctors in private practice and the rest of the staff of the hospital to make the emergency department an integrated part of our healthcare system. There's a lot of changes coming in healthcare in regards to insurance or managed care.
The understatement of the century.
Probably true. And what we're trying to do is to get the emergency department ready to be able to deal with managed care situations. And basically our job is to get the right patient to the right place at the right time.
As I said before, but I have to reiterate, so much thought has gone into this facility. You've been probably in more emergency facilities than I have, but in raising 13 kids, I have been in a few. And when most of them played sports, and you're in faraway places like Cape Cod and Long Island and Messina and Saranac Lake, you get rather interesting views of the insides of emergency rooms. This is by far the finest one I've ever seen.
Well, the staff that was here, Faye and the previous doctor, Dr. Bizik, worked very, very hard at looking at what was around the country and introducing all the new things that would work here in Plattsburgh. And I think that this is truly a state-of-the-art facility.
It's fine. It seems to have, as Faye says, all the bells and whistles and a lot more, but it'll make your job easier, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to maintain that oath of yours to save lives wherever you can.
Well, that's true, and I think what we will see here is a teamwork approach. Faye mentioned it earlier in the interview, but we're trying to work out a way in which the physicians and the nurses have a new paradigm or a new way they're going to function, and that is one nurse is going to be responsible for each of the patients and will walk that patient through the system working hand in hand with the physician. And the idea will be that the nurse is the care manager for that patient. And I think Faye can tell you a little bit more about that program, which I think is just brilliant in its conception.
Doctor, welcome to Plattsburgh.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck.
Thank you very much.
What a terrific person. Yes, Faye is willing to explain so many things to us today. We, neither Calvin nor I are bright enough to ask any hard questions, but we are curious about this place because we think it's pretty terrific. So
Right.
take the ball and run with it.
Okay. Previous to moving here, because of the physical layout of our department, we weren't able to assign patient by patient a nurse to be the primary care provider because the physical plant was so broken up. And what we've been able to do because of this new design is actually assign each patient as they come in to a primary nurse and a physician and an EMT to work as a team to care for the patient. And the nurse will actually, using that flag system that Linda explained earlier, be able to communicate with the physician along with this tracking board that we've installed, and will actually manage the care and let the physician know as each step in the process occurs, so that we can keep the doctor updated and then we can actually more efficiently process the person through their emergency department stay. We've also looked at the fact that we needed a, if you will, a master sergeant concept, someone who actually controls the flow of the patients through the department. And we have taken our charge nurse on each shift and made them the master sergeant, controller of the flow, make sure everything goes right person. And they will be assigning the nurses to the patients as they arrive, assigning the rooms, making sure that everything is done in an efficient, timely manner.
Sounds like a good title for my next book, Master Sergeant. In charge of the flow. That's terrific. Tell us a little more about this board. Is this a glorified blackboard or what is this?
It's actually a tracking board. Each patient will be listed according to room number, maintaining their confidentiality.
Is that electronically or do you write on it?
No, we actually write on it. And we will be able to update the physician as to what part in the process the person is in. Also, we will be able to communicate with our EMTs who assist us in many of our procedures, what needs to be done, how often should the vital signs on this patient be taken. The unit clerk can write on there that the patient has an inpatient bed and what the bed number is and if the bed is ready. So it's a mechanism to communicate in a busy department so that things don't get forgotten. And what we're actually hoping to do eventually is communicate by dots the color of the flags. So instead of having to write out, this patient is waiting for a physician reevaluation, that dot will come up and the color of the dot will signify that, so that we spend less time writing things out, but we can still communicate effectively. And having it on this board and also as outside the patient's room, we should be able to effectively communicate with each other.
I'm impressed by all this color coding because it's you don't have to read words.
Right.
You see the color and you know what the status is.
That's right.
I mentioned the word communications before, and I would imagine there are enough surprises in an emergency facility without losing communication and not knowing what the status of a given patient is. The more you can facilitate that, the better off you're going to be and everybody's going to be.
That's right. Having been a manager for a number of years, I've found that the root of most of the patient concerns that are expressed to us have to do with the fact that there was poor communication involved somewhere along the line. So I call that the root of all evils.
Okay, and you have?
This is a patient clipboard and another color indicator
There's more colors
system.
in there, yep.
We classify, or we actually sort our patients according to their acuity of illness. And we will be able to communicate to the physicians and the other nursing staff whether a patient is an emergency patient, an urgent patient, non-urgent, or fast track by pushing up the color on the little attachment on our clipboards. And so as the physician looks to see which patient they should be seeing next, they'll be able to see the acuity level of illness of each patient.
And once again, that communication is instantaneous just because it's a color.
That's right.
That's great. What's next?
Well, if you look directly behind me, This is our central cardiac monitor station, and we're very proud of our new radio frequency cardiac monitoring system. And we can actually take our cardiac monitors to wherever they're needed in this department, or actually anywhere on the second floor, including X-ray department, and monitor our patients back here at the central station. So even though that patient has a care provider with them when they leave our department, we will also know that that patient may be having a problem and be able to assist the person over in the radiology department. What's nice about this is, again, the fact that you don't have to wait for a room to become available for a cardiac patient. Any room can be used as a cardiac room by bringing the equipment to the patient. And as we walk through here, you'll see that the majority of the rooms are designed universally. And the beauty of that is that everything is in the same place. No one has to think about where is that item in this room. And we can treat any patient in any area of the department
Once again,
effectively.
no unnecessary surprises for staff or anybody.
Right.
Terrific. All right. What's next?
This is our communication station. This is where we would speak with the pre-hospital care providers who operate in Clinton, Essex, and Franklin County. We are installing a cellular phone capability so the ambulance services can call us by cellular phone and transmit EKG strips to us on that monitor screen down there. They can also call on the 800 frequency in Clinton County. They can talk to us about the status of patients. Our physicians give orders over the radio per Mountain Lake's protocol to the advanced EMTs, and they're able to actually begin care for the patient out in the field. For instance, someone in cardiac arrest could actually be defibrillated by a portable defibrillator. They could have a breathing tube placed to assist them in breathing. They could be given meds that are approved by the Mountain Lakes Council. And we can actually monitor the patients out in the field, their cardiac rhythms here at this station.
I think that's a good point to bring up now, as we touched on before, is when we talked to Corey, how far our ambulance crews have come over the years and how far that early treatment has come with our advanced life support, our new enhanced 911 system.
Right.
For example, you mentioned a strip before. In the old days, when firemen jumped on an ambulance and tried to get somebody to the hospital as quickly as possible, there was no such thing as a strip. Explain to us what the heck that does.
Okay. The patient is placed on a portable cardiac monitor somewhere out in Clinton, Essex, or Franklin County, and the ambulance service is actually able to transmit the patient's cardiac rhythm to the station for our physician to analyze. The providers have been educated to certain lethal arrhythmias, and they do have the ability to intervene without the physician's direction if they see, for instance, ventricular fibrillation, which is a lethal arrhythmia. However, those more tricky rhythms can be analyzed here by our nurses and physicians, and then the pre-hospital care provider can be directed as to how to treat that. So the patient could actually be out in Champlain, which is, what, half-hour away, and we can actually be treating that patient before they get here. And a lot of their care is actually done before they actually arrive here.
Once again, doing everything possible to save lives. Have we pretty well covered this part of the facility?
Yes, with the exception of we have a poison dex program where a physician can actually bring up on this computer drug interactions on a patient, or if someone has had an accidental overdose, we can look up what the best treatment plan is for that patient. So that's something new that we've never had before, and we're
That's
very excited
a
about
little
that.
better than looking up a telephone number and
Right.
calling another state and saying, we've got so-and-so, and what do we do about it?
Right, exactly. If we walk out here, I could show you the universal rooms that start.
We'll do that in just a moment. Calvin and I are fascinated by the equipment, the various colors, and this gadget is what?
This is an electronic thermometer. It has a an oral and a rectal probe. The beauty of electronic thermometers are that you can get an accurate temperature in a lot less time than if you had to use one of the old glass mercury
Put it under your
thermometers.
tongue, don't open your
That's
mouth,
right.
leave it there for
That's
a
right.
minute. Yeah.
These take 60 seconds versus the 5 minutes that it used to take a temperature. We also have tympanic membrane thermometers which go in your ear and take about 5 seconds to get an accurate temperature. So.
And we've seen those in modern doctors' offices
Yes.
for the last few years.
Yes.
You mentioned before 4 levels of emergencies. What does that mean?
Part of the art of emergency medicine is that providers need to be able to look at who presents, what their complaints are, and determine what category of illness that they fit into. An emergent patient would be someone that cannot wait for care. Those would be life-threatening situations, for instance, a cardiac arrest. A multiple trauma patient would be good examples of an emergent type patient. An urgent patient is someone who is acutely ill but could wait an hour or more and it would not affect their outcome. They would not lose their life or limb from the illness. Examples of that are people with abdominal pain. Someone who may have had heat stroke, patients with large lacerations. We try to treat everyone in a timely manner, but sometimes the volume of patients coming in makes it necessary to decide who needs to be treated first. The non-urgent category of patient would be someone who could be seen in a doctor's office if the doctor's office were open. An example would be a sinus headache, a small laceration, non-urgent type illnesses. And a fast-track patient is actually the same as a non-urgent. The only difference is that they can be seen through our fast-track program from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. During their operational hours.
Now, you mentioned Mountain Lake, and we wondered what that is.
Mountain Lakes Council is the regional council responsible for emergency medical services out in the community. It's the governing body for all of the ambulance services. It works closely with the New York State Department of Health to assure that the EMTs out in the community are appropriately educated, practiced by appropriate protocols. They actually do the certification, the education of those people. So they're the governing body for the volunteers and paid ambulance services in this northern part of New York. I believe from about Glens Falls area up, they cover. So.
Obviously, an emergency facility has to remain ready for any emergency 24 hours a day. And our question is, how many staff people, how many doctors might be on duty at any given time? Does it vary?
It varies. What we've done is analyze when the number of patients here peaks by looking at hour of day, day of week. And we did that over an extended period of time. And we know basically what hours we see the most patients. And we adjust our staffing accordingly. In the morning hour from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. we have one physician, 5 nurses, 3 EMTs, a unit clerk, and a registrar. At 9 a.m. a second doctor comes in so that we have 2 physicians on duty. At 11 a.m. a physician assistant or a third physician comes on duty. So by the time we get to the lunch hour we have 3 physicians on duty, and our nurse staffing ratio goes up to 6 at that time, and we stay at that level. Actually, we bring in a fast-track nurse also at 11, and then we stay at that high staffing level until 2 o'clock in the morning now, and then we're down to 1 single physician coverage because our volume is much lower on the night shift, and we have 4 nurses, 3 EMTs, and a unit clerk and registrar.
You obviously must be ready for any eventuality, and God forbid, should there be some kind of major disaster and/or plane crash, bus accident involving numerous people, what happens here?
The facility, as well as Clinton County, has a disaster plan, and it spells out what each department's responsibility is with regard to assuring that they have rapid response and sufficient personnel to address the issues of that kind of a major disaster situation. We have 2 levels of disaster. A level 1 would be a motor vehicle accident where there may be 6 or 7 victims, and it sufficiently taxes the department because there are patients already here. And a level 2 would be that type of disaster that you talked about, a catastrophic event of some sort. And the staff response level depends on the level of drill it's called. We've actually had 4 or 5 level 1 drills this year because of motor vehicle accidents with multiple victims. I've never had the occasion to have to call the level 2, and I hope I never do, but we're ready in case we do.
When you get old, as I am, modern things sometimes remind me of old things. And Calvin and I looked at this system you call the Quail system in front of us, and we immediately thought of Merkel's and all the other department stores, large and small, and banks where they use tube systems. It's essentially the same.
Yes, it is. The difference with this system is that it's designed to carry very fragile specimens of blood and other body fluids to our laboratory. Presently, when we draw blood specimens, the staff is required to actually walk that specimen to the laboratory, which takes emergency personnel away from the patients. In this department, the staff will actually be able to place the specimens in this tube system, and in about 15 seconds that specimen will arrive in the laboratory for analysis. So saving a lot of steps in the process.
Once again, doing everything with dispatch. Is this the only outlet here?
There's one here, and there will be one in our new fast track department when it's completed at the end of the year.
Okay, next.
This is a universal patient room, and I talked earlier about the fact that we tried to design the majority of the rooms to be universal so that equipment comes to the patient. All of the rooms are designed with cupboards for linens, sinks that you don't have to touch the faucet. You walk up to the sink, it automatically comes on to wash your hands. Sea lockers, which contain all the necessary supplies to care for a patient, and each room has a sea locker with the supplies in exactly the same place so that staff is not hunting for supplies. And I think Linda talked earlier about the Medeas head walls, which we can actually move the equipment where that provider feels comfortable having it. It's not attached to the wall permanently, but can slide up and down that rail to where we need it to be.
And the system is exactly the same in every room.
Yes, with the exception of a couple special rooms when we get down around the corner that I'll point out. And an x-ray view box is in each room also. And an overhead surgical light are in this bank of rooms on this side of the department.
Everything well thought out and exactly where you want it.
Yes. Even the doors are able to break away, so in case of an emergency I can push this door and it actually will open double wide so that a whole team of staff could get in at the same time, staff or equipment.
Terrific.
This next room is exactly the same as the room we were just in. The next 3 rooms are special rooms for patients who may need to have their safety protected or who have special needs for isolation for infectious disease. And what we can actually do in these rooms is close the doors over all of the special equipment in the room and protect the equipment from contamination from someone who is infectious, or also protect the safety of an individual that's assigned to this room. Now we have to take all of the equipment out of the room, and then when we have another patient come in, we have to put it all back. All we need to do in this room is close the doors, and the room is completely ready for that type of patient.
Do I see a television camera in the corner?
Yes, that would be used to monitor the safety of the patient. We have a monitoring room further down the hall.
Terrific.
The next two rooms are designed at the same kind of concept, only even more protected, in that there will be nothing in this room that could injure someone who needs special care. And directly adjacent to this room is what we call an ante-room, where someone could sit and assure that the patient is safe, or could enter it as the ante-room to an isolation room. And you can see that all of our special respiratory protection masks are hanging on the wall. Each staff member has their own. And there will be monitor screens here to observe the patients in these rooms. And we have lockers so that patient belongings can be locked up safely, to assure that they don't get placed somewhere where we can't find them or someone picks them up. And we have all those special code buttons on the wall that we talked about before, including a security button in case we need extra security personnel here.
Once again, as we move to another area, these are all universal rooms, you say?
Yes, that's correct. All the rooms on this side are universal rooms, all designed with the same concepts and the same equipment in the same place.
We
have 4 rooms down the side.
So you don't get that pear-shaped pumping like people sometimes call because the other day.
you can see some of the emergency personnel here getting
Oriented to their new unit, which is completely new as far as systems, equipment, and supplies, and where everything is located. This is a kitchenette area. Presently our kitchenette is in our medication room, and what our kitchenette is a refrigerator and sink. And we'll have the ability to actually have a coffee maker and offer friends or family in the waiting room coffee, and be able to provide juice and small snacks for patients.
nice touch.
Yeah.
Not that I would come in on purpose and fake an injury to get a free cup of coffee, but
Right.
For a donut, you might.
for a donut I might do that, yes. And we have here,
This is a family consultation room. We see many patients, families who are in crisis because their loved one is ill or injured, and often we need to have a private spot for our physician to speak with that family, to discuss what the patient's options are or how sick that patient is and the treatment plan. The room that we have right now is very small, and it's very difficult to fit a large family in that room. And this room is designed so that a family can sit together and have the support they need to get through that crisis. The nice thing about this room is that the staff, in always being prepared, like we talked about before, designed this room so that it can immediately become a patient care treatment space by carrying the couch and the chair and the stands out into the waiting room and taking that picture box off the wall. We can make this a patient treatment room because all the gases, suction, and everything are behind that picture.
absolutely amazing.
Yes. So this is another treatment space that we'll use as a backup space.
And we're back in the hallways here, and you were talking about this next room, which is a soil facility?
Well, this is a dirty utility room, and actually there's one on each side of the department so that staff doesn't need to travel to empty bedpans, bring in instruments that need cleaning, etc., into that area. But we're particularly proud of our clean supply area. And if you notice over the door, it has a plaque that says Betsy's Closet, and we've dedicated this area to Betsy Eilers, who was a registered nurse in our emergency department for a number of years and who recently retired, and she actually didn't get to come to the new emergency department with us. And we always were joking with Betsy because there was our clean supply room was in her work zone behind 3 stretchers, and she was dictatorial about where things had to be in that room. Her little closet had to be organized in a certain way, and if you go into this room, you can see that we have probably about 5 times more the space than we did in the old plan, and actually have shelving that rolls back and forth so you can get to the critical supplies that you're looking for in a timely manner versus having to walk through 3 patient care areas to get there.
And I bet you Betsy approves.
Yes.
Has she been here to see this?
She has, and actually she's coming back next week to be with us for a few days to help us get started. And she's very excited about that, and so are we.
That's terrific.
Yeah, but do mention that that's one of the...
And we're back here. Yeah, there's an antenna right up there. And Calvin said, what the heck? That's one of your antennas. That's... Hi, Paula.
Hi,
how are you? What's your last name?
My name is Paula Covey.
And what do you do here?
I'm the assistant nurse manager for operations of the department.
And she was just passing through the hall, and we put the bite on her because we knew she could tell us some things. What is that antenna for? Again?
That's one of the radio frequency telemetry spikes that we have. You heard about our cardiac monitors earlier. That allows our monitors to go to X-ray or to the other critical care units and continue to be monitored in our central monitoring station. So those telemetry spikes are necessary for us to be able to continue to visualize what's going on with our patient on the monitors.
Before we do anything else, as we always do, we have to get your background, where you come from, and where have you been before you got here?
Well, originally I'm from Messina, but I did my nursing education here in Plattsburgh at Plattsburgh State. I left for a short time and worked at Hepburn Hospital in Ogdensburg, and then I returned to the area because I like the Plattsburgh community. So I've been at the hospital for almost 10 years.
I don't have to ask you if you like this new facility on this end.
This is fantastic. It's such a difference from working from one world to the other.
Yeah, one world to the other. That's
exactly that. That's exactly that.
A perfect metaphor. Now, what have we got in here that's not completed yet?
Not completed yet, and here is our radiology suite. Now, that suite's due to open in October. That'll allow us to do x-rays right here in the department rather than having to take patients all the way to x-ray. We will have a designated radiology technician who will be able to beep when we have an x-ray that needs to be done. They'll bring the patient here and get the x-ray done. This will also speed things along in terms of our fast track area, because our fast track patients will also be able to be taken here to have their x-rays done.
Paula, something else will be coming in this part of the facility at some point down the road. It's called the Sexual Assault Facility?
Sexual Assault Care Center. In our old ambulance drive, which we're using as a construction staging area right now, we'll be constructing a special room, which is coming about from a very generous fundraising project that's being led by the volunteer auxiliary here at the hospital. They're doing a dinner at 8 in October to raise money to build our Sexual Assault Care Center. That'll be a special room that we can take patients who have been sexually assaulted to. It takes them out of the main mix of the emergency department, it gives them privacy, and it gives them a really nice area in which to be cared for. There'll be a separate area that serves as a waiting room, a comfortable room, a room that's more aesthetic than being in a very clinical ER room. The sexual assault care process takes about 4 hours, or shorter, depending on the case, but some cases take up to 4 hours. The patient a lot of times has to go through a lot of different interviews, and there's a lot of care that has to take place. Not only do we make the actual care of the patient a priority, but we also have to do a sexual assault evidence collection exam. In the past, those exams have been done by physicians. The physicians are sometimes tied up with emergencies in the main part of the ER. We have 8 nurses called SANE nurses, sexual assault nurse examiners.
I was just going to ask her about the acronym.
who have been
Same.
specially trained at both Columbia University and Samaritan Hospital at Troy to do this special exam. So we have 8 certified nurses on staff who are on call. Instead of having to wait for a physician to come in and do an exam on a sexual assault patient, the nurse will respond within 30 minutes, so the care is much quicker. In addition, once the exam is over with, there'll be a separate shower facility for those patients, and they'll be able to get fresh clothing because their clothing is often taken as part of the evidence collection. And that goes with the police if they decide to report the incident to the police. Not only do we examine the patient, but we do pregnancy risk and evaluation and treatment if a patient decides that they want treatment for that. We also do sexually transmitted disease evaluation and risk and treat patients prophylactically in the event that they might develop a sexually transmitted disease as a result of their assault. So they get a real well-rounded program. In addition, we call a rape crisis counselor from CEF Crisis Center who comes and supports the patient through the procedure because it's certainly an invasive exam, and it's certainly a very difficult time for the patient. Then we'll follow up the patient after the patient leaves our department. They get supported in court by the rape crisis counselor. The nurse becomes the expert witness in terms of going to court and giving the evidence in terms of what they saw and what they did during the exam to support the case.
This will be a very important part of this facility. I am proud to be a member of the CVPH Medical Center Foundation, which supports this facility, and there's, thanks to some generous contributions, there'll be a new camera.
That's right.
be installed.
We have a special camera that we will allow. It will allow us to actually visualize what we're doing during the exam and take really good pictures. In terms of evidence, it's really key to make sure that we're, collecting that evidence and really visually and in writing documenting what we've seen. In other areas that currently have a program like this up and running, their conviction rates have actually gone up because the evidence is just so good. And that's important for the victims.
By its very nature, sexual assault is a difficult subject to explain, to broach, to educate people about. But this facility plans to do a lot of things to make the situation easier for victims. And you were explaining to me off camera a few minutes ago about several options that patients might have.
Yes, patients are offered medical care so that any patient that comes to this program would also see a physician to make sure that they are medically stable. Patients can come and opt not to have any of the evidence collection. They can opt to have the evidence collection done and immediately call the police and have the evidence turned over. Or they can opt to have the evidence exam, and we can actually maintain the chain of custody and lock that evidence up in a specially designated refrigerator and hold that for 30 days. And the patient has time to decide whether they actually do want to press charges and release that evidence.
And the evidence is, as I said before, the entire subject is sensitive, but this new equipment that Paula discussed with us is just to give us better evidence.
That's right. We've been working with law enforcement and the DA's office to be able to provide the evidence to convict a perpetrator on behalf of the victims that present here.
So one special camera system might be used for pelvic examination. Another camera system might be used for identification purposes of, for example, if there is a physical aspect to the attack, bruises.
That's right. We can actually photograph every bruise, scratches, cuts, clothing in disarray. You would want to take pictures when the victim first arrives and then pictures after.
And when do we hope that this part of the facility will be finished?
We're hoping by the 1st of January. Our actual program is in effect now, and we'll actually utilize emergency rooms now, and then eventually we'll have the special entrance, special room for those victims.
This area for dispensing medicine looks very similar to one we already viewed today.
That's right. It's a Pyxis system, and nurses will access medication for their patients by using the computer to the right of this double bay unit. And what we would do is enter our patient's name and account number and the medication we wish to remove, and that portion of this double bay tower will open and allow us access to that medication. The other neat thing about this system for the nursing staff is that all of our narcotics are locked up in here. Gone are the days when at the change of shift we have to unlock a double box and count all the narcotics with 2 registered nurses. This system allows us to print discrepancy reports and not have to do that every 8-hour count, because it keeps track of what is in the system and who has access to those supplies, and if there were a discrepancy, we'd be able to go back and discover who that was immediately. So that's going to save time at that change of shift report, and we don't have to count probably 50 or 60 pills every 8 hours.
Okay, what's left to see?
Directly behind us is a 2-bay stretcher area. Right now, on occasion, when we have an overflow, we are forced to park patients in the hallway, and that's not a good situation for them or us. In this design, we are able to give them a private area to wait for a bed in the hospital, or it can also be used as backup treatment space if we get into an overflow situation.
Okay, moving right along.
These rooms are specially designed triage rooms. As we said in the beginning, our goal is to get every patient back to a patient treatment room immediately. However, if we were in the situation where all of our rooms were full, the nurse could bring the patient into one of these 2 triage rooms and actually begin their diagnostic workup by protocol. Our nurses have been trained to order extremity x-rays, for instance, based on the exam and the patient's complaint. They can order blood work for specific complaints and follow an algorithm which our physicians have designed. And the beauty of that is that the nurse actually can have the test results back on the patient's chart before the physician sees the patient, and save a lot of time in the process. These rooms are also designed for someone who is coming to meet their attending physician in our department, not seeing the emergency physician but meeting an attending physician. One of the problems we've had in the past is that if all the rooms are full and the attending comes down to see his patient, we're wasting precious time of a physician waiting for a room to become available. This room will be designated for that purpose so that there's not that wait involved. And the triage room directly adjacent to this one will house a telemedicine program. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll actually be able to connect with Elizabethtown, Alice Hyde, or any of those community hospitals that are up on the system. Or we could talk to Vermont about a patient, and actually the patient could be visualized by us or by Vermont, and we can listen to their heartbeat through the program and look in their ears, and physicians can communicate physician to physician about the appropriate care of the patient, and that will be located in this room. And both of these rooms serve as backup treatment space if all of our rooms are full.
We got lots of shelves, always have to have shelves.
We have a number of books that we need to move over from our old department, reference books, manuals which give our staff resources to look up policies. And we also have all the medical data safety sheets for all of the chemicals in use in the hospital, so that if one of our employees accidentally becomes exposed to any chemical, we have the master set of books down here in order to treat the chemical exposure appropriately.
Mike Hildebrand, you and I have known each other for a long time, and so you know that I'm not going to fib to you when I tell you I've been so impressed not only by this brand new facility as we've watched it grow from a concept to a finished item, but by your staff members today. What a great bunch of people.
Oh, they are. They're wonderful people, Gordy, and they have had to work in a challenging environment. The existing facility, the facility that by the time your viewers are seeing this, the long forgotten facility, was tough for them. And they're good people who really want to deliver the goods, and they do a great job and have always done a great job with the tough patients, the really sick patients. But they've never had the facility that's enabled them to really move people through quickly, privately, confidentially. And I think you've seen from their enthusiasm, I mean, they're just tickled pink because they have been instrumental in designing not only the facility but the systems that are going to provide that quality care for people. And it's really a marvelous thing. It's just absolutely heartwarming, and I think the community will end up loving this.
This has been a liberal education for all of us, Calvin and myself, and hopefully for all of our listeners. Calvin and I will never have to go to school again in these subjects. We've been fully informed today. As I've said several times during the course of this tour, hopefully our viewing audience will never have to use this facility, but by showing them all the nooks and crannies today, the things behind the scenes before the building is even open and ready to go, hopefully it will ease their minds and make them feel as they watch this program that, hey, I'm going to be treated right if I need it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is state-of-the-art. This is top-notch. You're not going to find anything better. You're not going to find a better staff than we have. I mean, the nurses, the techs, the LPNs, the aides, they're all top flight. And again, you don't ever want to end up here necessarily, but it's very reassuring to know that this kind of facility is here. And we certainly want to thank you two for joining us today.
We're delighted now that we know it's called the ECC and not an emergency room or an emergency department. And we can also promise you one more thing. We'll be back to continue this series, as I believe we'll end up calling it, at CVPH Medical Center. We thank you for watching now. We hope you'll join us in the future. Have yourself a great day, and please drive carefully. Our little corner has traveled once again to another corner of the North Country. We're back to Franklin County at Alice Hyde Hospital, and with me, John Johnson. How are you, John?
Welcome to Alice Hyde Hospital.
Well, we're so delighted to be here again. Everything I do in Malone is for the first time in more than 4 decades. And when Calvin and I turned the corner to come here this morning, I said, I think that's the way. And then I turned the corner and looked at this facility, and it doesn't necessarily reflect the images I have in my mind.
Well, obviously, Gordy, a lot has changed in the last 40 years, but a whole lot has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, too. About 5 years ago, Alice Hyde Hospital began to look forward to the year 2000 and said that in order to prepare ourselves for the new millennium, that we should be going out to our communities that we serve, finding out from our communities the type of services that we're providing and how well were we providing them, and also trying to determine what services might be lacking in our area that our residents were interested in having us provide. And as a result of those tours to those 19 or 20 different communities in our area, we came back with a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts that we put together as a board and as administration, and it evolved into our long-range plan for the year 2000. So over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been actively not only theorizing as to what the plan ought to be, but we've taken some aggressive actions in trying to address the needs that the people have requested of us. You may know on your way from Plattsburgh or Champlain to Malone, you pass through Chateauguay, And in Chateauguay last year, we established a primary care clinic for that region because in our tours in that area a couple of years ago, we were told how difficult it was to gain access to primary care in that region.
Welcome again to another edition of our little corner. Right, we're on top of the mountain today, on top of Lion Mountain on a beautiful sunshiny day in the middle of August. Looking around, enjoy the sunshine and thinking about a little history. As Calvin and I were driving up here toward Lion Mountain Correctional Facility, we were thinking about some of the people we've known who went to school here, who worked in the mines here many years ago, and we're going to try to cover a little bit of that history today as we get inside the workings of the Lion Mountain Correctional Facility. I'd like to have these two gentlemen introduce themselves.
Dan Conley, I'm the program administrator here at the facility.
And?
Officer Tony Benwer, I work here. I've been here since the prison opened up.
And you went to school here, which is even more interesting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I went to school here all my life, and I was the last graduating class from Lion Mountain in 1970.
I'm sure a lot of the people in the North Country don't even know that this was a school, but it was for a lot longer than it's been a prison, right?
Oh yeah, back in 1950 something. I don't really know the year that it opened up, but it was in the 50s. And been to school ever since until they closed it down in 1970. And then it was vacant for roughly around 7, 8 years, somewhere around there, and then the state took it over.
Did you know when you were a little kid you were going to stay here for the rest of your life and work here?
I had no idea. No idea whatsoever.
You're originally from where?
Lion Mountain.
From Lion Mountain, went to school here. What happened after that?
I joined the Navy for 4 years. Was out on the West Coast. Came back, worked in Plattsburgh for a year at Imperial Paper. Then I got laid off there. I went down to Glens Falls.
Well, you've heard about the river run. We're going to make the fair run here in the North Country. So far, Calvin and me, we've been to the Clinton County Fair. We've been to what I still call the Malone Fair, the Franklin County Fair, and now we're in Westport at the Essex County Fair, and it's another great day. We bring the sunshine with us. Number one man on these fairgrounds these days, and the coolest goatee belongs to fair manager Ernie Lapine.
Yeah.
How are you, Ern?
Fine, Gordy.
Today's the big day.
Today's a big day. Today is our open day. Weather is really been good for us today. Hopefully the rest of the week will be the same. But things look good right now. Everything's full that I know of.
I told Calvin we had a Westport traffic jam when we were pulling in. There were 7 cars and the bus from Camp Dudley.
You're right, but you missed the go-kart in front of it.
Oh, the go-kart was there. I guess all the kids are here. It must be Kids Day.
Yeah, we have a lot of the schools here, plus Camp Dudley has brought all their young people with them today. And this will be the same thing again on Friday. We have another Children's Day, and that goes from 10 in the morning, or actually 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, and bracelets from 10 till 4 for $8. And we'll have a bracelet night on Thursday night where you can ride all the rides from 6 to 10 for $8. So Smokey's Greatest Show is providing our rides for us and all of the stuff, and he has a very nice midway. He packs a lot of stuff into a very small area.
Every fairgrounds is put together a little bit different from any other, and yours is
unique.
Really unique down here in this little corner. We were in Ernie's office. We saw a poster for the 1941 Essex County Fair. They were giving away a brand new 1941 Chevrolet. Well, you might think by looking at the pictures that we're in a village park somewhere, but today, under beautiful bright sunshine in August, we have taken our little corner cameras to Plattsburgh Quarries, and it's just a tremendous pleasure to be here. Scott, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
I don't think you and I have ever met before. We talked about that.
Yeah.
You've been here 20 years, and I've been here 35 years, and never had our paths cross.
Yeah, no, it's a small world.
I think it's just about time we started here. This is a beautiful park you have out here.
Well, we've taken a lot of pride in our